most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
Alright guys, back again. Got the old Vivor heater. I had this since last year. You might have seen my other video where I run the exhaust from this into a radiator. It's an old steam radiator, kind of like a little bench. If you haven't seen it and you're interested, I actually collected somewhere around 10,000 BTUs of free heat from it. That radiator acted as the perfect heat sink and also heat distributor, and almost like a heat battery because it's so heavy. And it doesn't get condensation. I had a lot of comments on that video. It's recently become more and more popular. But yeah, a lot of people are worried about condensation, and I can tell you with a surety there's a drain on it, and it does not get very much condensation in it. Most of that goes out into the atmosphere. I've actually collected it in an aluminum can, and there is quite a bit of condensation, almost steam-like discharge from the exhaust outside. Now, I'm probably just being confusing right now if you haven't seen the video, but yeah, I basically ran the exhaust through a steam radiator, and then it went into the steam radiator, and then the output went out the window outside. And yeah, it was really interesting. Got a bunch of free heat. Anyway, let's get back to this. This is the install into my daily driver. And I have a video from a couple years ago about this. But now, or it might have been last year. I do it every year. So we're having like the snowstorm of the century right now. It's just blowing sideways. So I'm going to put this into the Tahoe here, and I have the hole from the previous install just covered with this. You can see this is the heater I had in before. It's just a standalone. It's also a Vivor heater. This is also an 8 kilowatt, but as you can see the difference, this is a standalone unit, has a tank built in, and sorry about my greasy fingers there. And there's just two outputs there, positive and a negative. That's it. And this is the custom install. Same controller, which I love that kind of controller because I'm used to it. You got an air intake. All right, I'm back. So anyway, this is the this is the type. It's a remote mount unit. So the fuel, I used to keep the fuel tank in that box, which I just use a 5-gallon can, and the little adapter that this heater came from. And there's a fuel pump that's separate and external. I kept that in the box because it makes a bunch of noise. On this one, the fuel pump's inside, so I'm just gonna have to tolerate that little bit of noise. Not the biggest deal, but yeah. And the tank obviously was remote mounted, so I just basically had heat in here. It's quiet. It's really the ideal install. The problem is that that's all carboned up. It's because I ran it for forever. In this truck. I've ran it in my greenhouse. This is the one I got first many years ago, and I've done a ton of videos and experiments. But yeah, it's time to change the glow plug, clean the combustion chamber, and I'm going to make a video about that. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, you know, I do it in my own way. There's a million videos though if you look up Chinese diesel heater, clean out, or glow plug, or any of that. I'm just going to do my own version. But let's get back to the main line of business here, and that's installing this. So if this type, we got a little fuel in there, so I can't tip it over, but there's just an exhaust that comes out the bottom. That's all you have to place. You can pull the intake air from in here. I could run the intake outside. I'm just gonna pull it from in the truck because it ain't gonna matter. Yeah, so let's just get that hooked up. I'll come back once I've got it set up. All right, got the exhaust mounted. Used the plate for a block off, a license plate, and yeah, and this is like professionally mounted. Followed the direct, just kidding. This is fabric cobbled, so it's just temporary. Put this on every year. We're having the storm of the century, so this should be just fine. It's up in there and ain't going nowhere. Super professionally mounted temporarily. You got that block off plate. Let's just tuck it under the carpet here a second. Alright, so we're going to do the first fire up. The vent fan on, so we are safe to do this indoors. Get her fired up. Let's go through the menus. 13.3 volts, not too much of a drop. You should always keep, just a little tip, for this install and this install, it's best to have, let me come back here. It's best to have as short of wires as possible, which I didn't follow that this time. But it's only about 110 watts when the glow plug kicks on like it's doing right now. But yeah, the shorter the wires, less resistance, you're better off. And you always get that voltage drop when it's firing up. So let's just see. No error. So that's the internal on this type of controller, which is strange. I got a bunch of them. I like this controller, so I always order the Vivor heaters that have this controller because I prefer it. But you can get them with, like, I think there's like 6 different flavors or 10 flavors that I've seen. They're all do the same thing. You just have to learn how to do the various buttons. Now, I didn't prime this. Normally you prime. All right, so we got her running. Let's select that to see the internal temperature of that heat. Oh, it's hot. Nice. So we're running, and we're gonna head home now, and I'll show you the results of how well this works. I won't need to even have my broom and my all my fancy brushes and stuff like that anymore. Well, I'll still keep them, but I won't need them, because what happens is the snow melts right off the vehicle, and I'll show you a comparison later on. I'll show you what we're in for. The storm of the century. The old rusty Tahoe. Friggin' love that truck. Yeah, I'll be back with you later. I know it's not safe. This is what we're doing. Like 22 miles an hour. Alright, I just got home. There's my car coated in a couple inches. It just started a couple hours ago. That car at the end of the street's a good one because it's just got a fine coating on it. So we'll come look at it in a couple hours. It's snowing like Jesus. Alright guys, so I might as well do the in conclusion. We just had a snow-nado come through. But yeah, it was crazy. It was like looked like a tornado. Just for a second, but now it's not super windy. But yeah, it snowed about, I don't know, ½ inch. At least on the driveway. The boxes melted a little bit, but as you can see, there's no snow buildup on the truck. You may hear a noise. That's the air conditioner on the building next door. This is what you hear. Probably amplified because it's a truck. But yeah, I'm gonna stand here because it's super warm. So let's go to the controller a minute. We'll go to 34C in here. So this thing, these diesel heaters, they have these type have 2 modes. It drops down to low mode, which I've heard only takes 20 watts. That's when it gets the temperature on that thermostat. Well, I have this maximum, and it's not too hot in here. It's like perfect. I've got the door open, so I'm letting the cold in. But yeah, this will melt the snow. I'll just leave it maxed out. I haven't even used any of the fuel. I filled it to about there, so yeah, it's barely used anything. I'll do an actual fuel rundown and later tests, and if you want to know that information, you can just ask me directly in the comments. Any question, I don't care what it is. You look back on my videos, I answer every question, or I always respond. And yeah, my channel, never said I'd do a sponsorship. Let's just get into that real quick. But I've been buying Vivor stuff. I've got just so many different things. These giant air pumps for my other experiments. I've got all kinds of devices from Vivor. And they offered me a sponsorship to send me a heater. Well, I'm not going to do it. But they do have good products. I have 5 of these heaters. So I've got one here in the Tahoe. There's another one right there. That one I heated my porch with. I've done experiments with. I heated my greenhouse before I replaced it. So I have just a ton of these things. And I also run them off inverters. I have these little AC to DC converters. They're 0 to 480 watts or 0 to 48 volts. They're awesome. And you should get one if you want to control one or more of these. You can do multiples. I have another video if you stay tuned. I want to make, again, I have one, but I want to make a new one with brand new equipment that it has 2 of these diesel heaters on it. It's got a 25-gallon diesel can. It's got a small generator. It's got a 100 amp hour battery. It's got an inverter. It's got extension cords. It's got a little housing. All the exhausts are vented into a car muffler underneath, which heats the whole thing, keeps it warm. It goes outside, and then there's just 2 6-inch ducts to run both the intake air and the exhaust air out. So, yeah. And if you want to see more stuff, though, you definitely need to comment. This is getting long and drawn out, so I'll just leave you with the differences between this, and I showed you this. So let's just go there. So we got that much snow. You can see in the car. You can see I got it already on the hood. Oh man! And yeah, it just melts off. And you would think there would be a problem with ice, but the whole body warms up. So you don't get any ice accumulation. You never have to. If you look at every other car, I don't care, they've been driving or not, they're coated compared to this. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Hope to see you next time. Leave me a comment.